London has always had an underworld. From the Cray twins of the 1960s to Jamaican Yardies in the 1980s, every generation had its feared enforcers, but today the balance of power has shifted. Behind the flashing lights of Soho's clubs, beyond the estates of East London, and deep within the docks where cargo arrives from across the globe, a new empire has taken root. It is disciplined, ruthless, and more efficient than anything Britain's criminal world has seen before. This is the story of the Albanian Mafia, the shadowy force that has grown from Balkan blood feuds into one of the most powerful organized crime groups in Europe, now running much of London's cocaine trade. How did they rise so fast? Why are they feared even by rival gangs? And why has it been so difficult for police to bring them down? The seeds of the Albanian Mafia in London were planted far from British soil. In the 1990s, the Balkans were torn apart by war. Albania, Kosovo, and surrounding regions were scarred by poverty, unemployment, and violence. Thousands fled westward, searching for safety and opportunity. Among them were young men who had grown up around smuggling routes, weapons, and black market economies. When they arrived in Britain, many settled in working-class areas like East London. At first, they worked as laborers, doormen, or low-level hustlers, but they brought something with them that Britain's older gangs lacked: discipline from conflict zones, and a culture bound by the code of Besa, meaning absolute loyalty and trustworthiness. Out of these communities, the Albanian gangs began to form. One of the most notorious groups to emerge were the Halbanians, based in the Gascoigne estate in Barking. Unlike older gangs who stayed in the shadows, the Halbanians flaunted their power. They wore expensive designer brands, drove fast cars, and filmed rap videos that glorified their wealth and violence. Police officers began calling them the most powerful street crew in London. Their influence extended beyond flashy music videos. It ran through protection rackets, drug distribution, and intimidation. By the early 2000s, the Halbanians had become a brand in themselves, both feared and admired in equal measure. But they were only one piece of a much larger picture. Behind them were powerful Albanian crime families controlling imports, distribution, and money laundering. The Halbanians were the street-level enforcers, the soldiers of a mafia empire. What set the Albanians apart wasn't just muscle, it was culture. Unlike other gangs bound loosely by profit, Albanians followed centuries-old traditions. The first was Besa, a sacred promise of loyalty. In the underworld, it made them ideal business partners. If an Albanian promised a delivery of cocaine, it would arrive. This reliability made Colombian cartels trust them over rivals. The second was the Kanun, an ancient code of law that included blood feuds. Betrayal wasn't just punished, it demanded vengeance, sometimes extending to family members. In practice, this meant very few dared to cross Albanian gangs. Their reputation for swift and brutal retribution spread across Europe, making them as feared as the Sicilian Mafia. In their early years, Albanian gangs dominated London's sex trade. Women from Eastern Europe were lured with promises of work, then trapped in brothels, forced into prostitution, and controlled through violence. This provided steady profits but also brought police attention. Their real breakthrough came with cocaine. While British gangs bought drugs secondhand from Dutch and Spanish middlemen, Albanians went straight to the source. They struck deals directly with Colombian cartels, offering efficiency and loyalty. By cutting out intermediaries, they slashed costs and supplied cocaine purer than anyone else. Soon they weren't just competitors in London's drug scene, they were its kings. Reports suggest that by the 2010s, Albanian gangs controlled the majority of Britain's £5 billion cocaine market. Unlike flashy British gangs of the past, the Albanians operated like corporations. Every layer of the operation was structured. Importation, cocaine hidden in fruit shipments, construction materials, or vehicles arriving through ports like Portsmouth and Dover. Logistics. Trusted men handled transport, warehouses, and stash houses. Distribution. Street crews like the Halbanians sold directly, ensuring no middlemen diluted profits. Money laundering. Cash was cleaned through restaurants, construction firms, and international transfers. This vertical integration made them almost untouchable. If one crew fell, another picked up the slack. At the top were bosses who rarely touched the drugs themselves, staying insulated from direct prosecution. Albanian gangs understood the power of image. On one hand, they projected luxury, Bentleys, champagne, and designer brands. Social media amplified their reach, attracting teenagers who saw crime as a ticket to fast wealth. On the other hand, they ruled through fear. Young recruits who tried to leave were beaten, or worse. Rival gangs who challenged their turf were stabbed, shot, or disappeared. Victims of human trafficking lived in constant terror with debts that could never be repaid. It was a dual strategy: lure outsiders with glamour, but hold insiders in place with violence. From time to time, authorities struck back. One of the largest busts occurred in 2021, when police found 2.7 tons of cocaine hidden in banana shipments worth over £200 million. Investigations like Operation Venetic revealed Albanian gangs using encrypted phones to run international networks. But even after arrests, the machine kept running. For every soldier imprisoned, a replacement stood ready. The real masterminds often stayed in Albania or other European safe havens, far beyond the reach of British courts. Police admitted privately that cutting off the head of the Albanian Mafia was almost impossible. The strength of Albanian gangs lies in their recruitment pipeline. From small villages in Albania, young men are promised jobs abroad. Social media glorifies the gangster lifestyle, with captions mocking hard work and celebrating quick money. When these recruits arrive, many find themselves enslaved by fabricated debts. Some are forced to guard cannabis farms, others to sell drugs, and women into prostitution. Even when they realize the trap, leaving is nearly impossible. The same loyalty that binds the gangs also chains their victims. For ordinary Londoners, the Albanian Mafia isn't just a headline, it's daily life. On estates like Barking's Gascoigne, residents know which pubs or corners belong to the gangs. Cocaine flows more freely than ever, cheaper and stronger, fueling addiction and crime. Knife attacks, shootings, and turf wars ripple outward. County lines operations spread Albanian influence into smaller towns, dragging British teenagers into drug networks. Meanwhile, profits leave communities and disappear overseas. What's left behind are broken families, overdoses, and fear. Despite high-profile arrests and deportations, the Albanian Mafia remains resilient. Their control of the cocaine pipeline, their use of ancient codes like Besa, and their ability to exploit globalization give them advantages older gangs never had. Authorities across Europe now coordinate joint operations, but for every win, the Mafia adapts. And as long as demand for cocaine remains sky-high in Britain, the Albanians' empire is unlikely to fall. From Balkan battlefields to London council estates, the Albanian Mafia's rise is a story of survival, discipline, and ruthless ambition. They control a billion-pound drug empire, terrorize communities, and exploit the vulnerable, all while projecting glamour and invincibility. Yet beneath the myth lies a chilling truth. Their power is built not on strength alone, but on fear, loyalty, and the desperation of those they exploit. If you found this deep dive into the Albanian Mafia eye-opening, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more untold stories from the hidden corners of crime. Your support helps us continue shining a light on the shadows.